Kristinsson, South Brighton Residents Association, and if councillors go back to the Monday the 7th of May agenda on page 103. So, just I'll repeat what I've said before, and that is that we've read your submission, and if you could just highlight the points if we have time, then we can get to questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, kia ora. Thank you for this opportunity. We are here actually to point out a situation the city is dealing with. We've got a tale of two cities. The city is split in a way where planning takes place in areas which have a future, in other areas they are neglected. We allege that the earthquake damaged part of the cities have been subject to systematic negligence on part of the Crown and Council. A comparison between the two halves of the city highlights the level of discrimination. We have come across an imaginary or theoretical seawall which lies across along Bridge Street. One side, which is the northern side of Bridge Street, it does not have hazard planning. The New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement has not been honoured there. We do not have updated flood predictions. The resource consent requirement in general do not require 1 in 200 year flood levels. We do not have permanent engineered flood protection. High hazard areas are questionable. The risk-based planning according to the Civil Defence and Emergency Management Act has not taken place there, and we do not have floodplain management. On the other side, southern side of Bridge Street, we have areas which have lifted in the earthquakes. We have got council has provided hazard planning there. The New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement has been honoured there. The updated flood predictions have been put in place. Resource consent requirements are in place. We are looking under the long-term plan that permanent engineered flood protection is planned to be put in place there. And they do have floodplain management. Now, next slides, I'm going to hand over to Seamus.
Kia ora, good morning. I'm Seamus O'Crompta. I'm Secretary of the South Brighton Residents Association. So we're only going to focus on the first two slides and leave you to read the rest because of the time constraints. The second page here, we look at the cost-sharing agreement and the land drainage recovery programme. So the key to a sustainable recovery following a disaster like we had in 2010-2011 is a rapid assessment of residents' hazard exposure, according to the motto of Build Back Better. That phrase has become a mockery in the Christchurch context because we've seen nothing indicating building back better. Instead, we've had no sustainable planning. We've drawn the council's attention to this many times in the past, both to the Mayor and to the Council. Our last submission was at a public forum on the 5th of October last year. We asked that the matter of hazard mitigation be addressed. The Deputy Mayor told us that this would be referred to staff, and since then we have heard absolutely nothing on the subjects that we raised at that. Our current submission outlines what is arguably systematic negligence in regard to planning. So everyone in Christchurch is well aware of the differences between the east and the west and what has been spent in the eastern suburbs and what has been spent in the western suburbs. This is what you're going to be deciding on with the long-term plan for the next umpteen years. If things continue as they do, we'll have areas of the city in the east which are slums, which no one wants to live in, where the housing is inadequate, etc., etc. So some of the worst areas of Christchurch have been denied the protection of environmental law, and community well-being has been ignored, as we put in here. So these areas, our area in particular, are facing difficulties with insurance cover. We have insurance companies which are refusing to cover houses in certain areas in postal codes where nothing has been done to mitigate flood protection, flood hazard in particular. People are having difficulty with their mortgages because if you don't have insurance cover, you can't get a mortgage. Building permits have been issued without any mitigation. This is a problem we brought up in the past as well, where the council has issued permits to build houses 50 centimetres below the minimum required by the building code, which is illegal, and nothing has been done to compensate the people affected by this. They're exposed to natural hazards which have not been mitigated, and that slide lists all the relevant legislation and documents which we brought up many times in the past as well. Back to Hugo.
Yeah, we're just going to briefly touch on the next slides. We look at the regulatory environment, and following the earthquake, ECAN requested that Gerry Brownlee, or the minister, established a land use recovery program done by ECAN. In that preliminary plan, ECAN had the obligation to deal with natural hazards. In the final land use recovery program, this obligation was transferred over to council, and it was supposed to be completed by April 2016. In a document from Vienna Science about governance issues in regard to coastal hazards, there is an outlining of loopholes, where it states that lobby groups have the ability to strongly influence outcomes of if the council does not stand up to them. The outcome of coastal erosion management decisions are frequently dominated by a well-connected, powerful lobby group at the expense of the wider community interests. We look at the regulatory environment and we look at the resource and what council must give effect to. And the New Zealand coastal policy statement is one of the very serious instruments that have been neglected north of Bridge Street. But by some strange arrangement, the minister and a group named Christchurch Coastal Residents United reached an agreement to exclude coastal hazards from the district plan. This took place in 2015, before council was supposed to deliver the coastal hazard planning. This resulted in an amendment of the Christchurch replacement district plan, and basically leaves the coastal hazard at council discretion to be delayed as soon as reasonably practicable, but no later than 30th of June 2021. This is at an expense of the wider community. We do not have sustainable planning in place for the whole city. The Tonkin and Taylor Coastal Hazard Report, they identified 6,000 properties that were exposed to erosion in 2016, and 15 and 16. But in 2017, this number was reduced to 1,000 properties. And according to all the information that we've got, this appears to be due to an imaginary seawall, or a very mysterious seawall. And in essence, delaying this hazard recognition and hazard mitigation has the potential to delay the next disaster, like in Matata and Edgecombe experiences. It's also referred to in this report that EQC has outstanding obligations. Its council is involved with this ties into the cost sharing agreement and the land drainage recovery program.
You just have a minute left, Hugo, so.
Okay, we got this information about this mysterious seawall. We lodged official information at request to ECAN and Council. No one recognizes why this instrument is on the maps. So we have time for questions?
No, I'm afraid not. You've come to your end of your time. But look, thank you very much. I mean, people are very familiar with the issues that you've raised, and obviously there's a little bit more of a follow-up that needs to occur. So thank you very much for making a presentation.
Can I add one sentence here? We would like to see engagement and activity actually related to this. You know, just listening and not reacting, you know, doesn't work.
That's why we give 10 minutes to people so that they can choose whether they spend their time making the presentation.
That's why you refer it to staff and then people hear nothing for 6 months?
Look, thank you very much for your presentation today. And what I was trying to indicate to you, that there's obviously some further communication that needs to occur. So, but this is the LTP process, so we'll take your submission as an LTP submission. So thank you.